How about that shit?
I love the new theme music.
Well,
for the show.
You know what? I have to say that's a temporary theme just for this week. But if you,
we're gonna get sued.
I don't know. Well, let me get into that. If you heard that, it's some sort of Soviet march song that I think is totally in the public domain. So we're good there. But
it was more so referencing
playing the clip of Star Wars.
Yeah. So for the folks listening at home, I implore you, check out this episode on YouTube because you would have seen a really cool intro video to kick off this week's episode, which is, for those of you who are only listening, footage of Luke Skywalker burning his father, Darth Vader, aka Anakin Skywalker.
Spoiler alert, dude.
On a pyre. Oh yeah, if you haven't seen the movie, Luke is
man. Some people are late to the party.
Damn.
So he's got his dad on a pyre, lights the pyre on fire.
It's like a Viking funeral send off. It's like a
you know what actually
super badass.
would have been a way. I shouldn't say it would be a way.
I got a good
clip,
one.
But another clip that we could have used there instead.
What?
Tristan and Isolde. That's a really good one.
What's it? Is that Game of Thrones?
No. It's a movie. Tristan and
it's
Isolde.
I think I want to say it's Orlando Bloom.
Is that what you're gonna say? You're gonna say that one?
I'm not gonna say Tristan.
It's what Romeo and Juliet was based on. The OG Romeo and Juliet.
It's one of my
the one
favorite
Shakespeare
movies.
Based on
Really,
Tristan and Isolde.
It's one of your favorite. Have you fucking watched it? You keep saying that Grey's Anatomy is your favorite show, and we just found out a few weeks ago you've watched it maybe 10 times.
Dude, I
out of
owned
3,422 episodes.
I own Tristan and Isolde on DVD, and I used to watch it every night before bed.
Wow, that's
like 10 times.
really interesting.
The book is better.
And
I
so
had to read it in
informative.
French lit.
It's Troy. Have you guys seen Troy?
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
There's probably there's only one pyre burning in Star Wars. There's probably 2,000 pyre burnings in Troy.
Well, you may be asking why I showed you a pyre scene. It was the first pyre scene I thought of when I read this article and when I thought, what could I show?
I didn't even remember that.
I didn't remember that either.
Yeah, I don't know if we're allowed to show that. So we might. There goes our monetization on YouTube. Maine, the state of Maine. I'm really excited about
Neighbors to Nova Scotia, by the way.
Yeah, like right across the pond. This is coming from sunjournal.com. Maine may allow Viking-style funeral pyres.
There's no way.
Legislature is weighing whether
sweet.
to make open-air cremation legal in Maine.
That's super cool.
I think I would be into that.
I would be super into that.
I'm so into that. I've got my marshmallows and chocolate and graham crackers fucking ready.
Oh, man.
I'm very.
What do you think that s'more would taste like?
Oh wow,
Delicious.
I would eat. I would if
Smoky.
Hey guys, if I went to one of your funerals and it was an open air pyre like that, I was allowed to make s'mores over your body, I would fucking totally.
Well, I'll
do
tell
that.
you why.
No, you wouldn't.
I'll tell
You
you
would
totally
not.
would.
Okay, well, first of all, I don't think you'd be allowed.
You wouldn't be allowed.
There would be
sure.
some health and safety issues.
Saying if.
Secondly, I don't think you would, dude.
Do you remember the guy who made his amputated thigh meat into tacos for his friends to eat?
It was his foot.
Oh, it was
no,
his
it
foot.
was
It was his foot,
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
Yeah. So for folks who didn't, did we talk about that on the show, or was
Yeah,
that
a
just
long
us,
time
like,
ago.
shooting the shit?
Yeah.
Long time ago.
There was a guy who had his foot amputated, and he asked afterwards if he could keep the foot, to which I don't know what state he was in. They gave him the permission to take it home. He took the foot home.
Probably Florida.
I want to say it was New Jersey.
I'm
No,
gonna
it-
look into
you know,
this.
it
it
actually
sounds,
wasn't-
sounds
sounds
very
like-
Florida-like.
It
Sounds like a
sounds
Florida
straight
thing.
out of fucking Orlando for sure. But it was somewhere. It was like California or something. Like it was a very like.
It sounds more Tallahassee to me, if I'm going to be honest.
So he took his foot home and he invited all of his friends over and they had brunch and they cooked up his foot and shared and broke bread.
Like quesadillas or something like that.
Something like- it was like breakfast burritos. With
I
foot.
would,
That's so
guys.
fucked up.
We should find somebody.
But do you think you actually would like?
I would totally eat human if I
No,
had.
no. Not that.
S'mores.
Rewind.
Yeah.
Burning s'mores over.
I mean, for the most part, you're just burning it over a fire. Unless he's burning it directly over your body, he's not getting any. He's not getting any of you.
Yeah, he is.
Well,
yeah, he is.
guys, I just want to say,
Ash.
I sort of pride myself in being like an expert s'more maker.
What?
Yeah.
Hold on, meh.
Listen,
Dude,
What, do you make s'mores while you're watching Grey's Anatomy?
I do, yes, and I'll tell you why. I'll tell you. So I'm going to solve your guys' debate right here, because do you guys know where in the fire is the best place to roast a marshmallow?
I sure do.
Where is it?
You jam it right into the coals, right in the center.
4
Hell
inches,
no.
4
Hell
inches
no, you
above
don't.
the tip of the flame.
You mash it in there, hold it
Hell
for
no.
30 seconds, pull it out, and it's perfectly
The best
brown.
place. The best place is, so if a flame is like a teardrop shape, so like a wider base and it like narrows towards the top, right?
Yep.
So the best place to roast a marshmallow is either very high up above or right like near the bulbous base of the fire where it sort of like expands out and you kind of come into the side just where the heat is like sort of like coming off. And because you're not getting direct flame and because you're not like direct in the hottest part of the fire, it actually slowly cooks the marshmallow and melts it perfectly. So you get that like crisp outside.
Guys, this is
And
the
that's
fucking
super
good.
soft
If you're
inside.
not subscribed to us on fucking Apple, Spotify,
I was gonna say,
and fucking YouTube,
This
like,
is
this is the shit you come here
this
for.
is the podcast.
So,
Yeah.
so I want to say that this solves the question of, would I truly make a s'more on a pyre that is burning my friend's body? And the answer is absolutely yes, because I feel like I probably wouldn't get that much of your body, like just enough for taste.
Okay.
You know, like just a little bit off that, like off that heat,
Sure.
and it would taste so good.
I would love to do it because I brought up Troy because it came to mind, but I'm also like a bit of a fanatic of the of epics, and so I love that shit, and I think it's super epic. So I think that would be pretty cool to put.
I thought you were saying you would
put a
make
couple
s'mores.
put a couple tokens on my eyes.
Yeah,
send me to the fucking
definitely.
send me across the river Styx
to Valhalla.
A
That is
measure
a different. It's a different thing.
a measure before the state legislature this session would allow Mainers, didn't know they were called that, Mainers to choose a death ritual that stretches back to ancient times, but has largely vanished from modern day America: outdoor cremations. If adopted, it would let people in the Pine Tree State choose to go out like a Jedi, boom, or a Viking king in blaze of glory in open air. Anyone who has watched Game of Thrones, which is what I was thinking earlier too, or The Phantom Menace, thank you, has at least seen a fictional funeral pyre with bodies cremated on a bed of timber and a sometimes elaborate ceremony. It's a way of sending off the dead that's still widely practiced in some parts of the world, but there are only 2 sites in the United States where it is legal, both in Colorado, only one of them public. It's limited to no more than a dozen funerals annually. My guess is, I'm not going to guess. I don't know shit.
Do you have to like reserve it years in advance?
You should definitely guess.
I was gonna guess it was like it's like a Buddhist site in Colorado.
Colorado is
Because I know that there's like a pretty big Buddhist community there, and I also know that there, as a part of some Buddhism traditions, that burning bodies on a pyre and fire is a funerary ritual that's pretty common.
Isn't it crazy that like somehow or at some point that became illegal? Like, because it would have been something that was so widely practiced,
especially since they just do it in a furnace now.
Yeah,
Well,
yeah. It is legal. It's the open air part that's not legal. I don't know when that would become illegal though.
but it would be it's weird because like
At some point, they would.
it's weird because it's funny. I was talking to a friend of mine who's expecting a baby soon the other day, and they were talking about like whether or not they were going to have an epidural during pregnancy, and I was thinking about like how that is an option now, but like very like not a long time ago, like probably within. When do you think epidurals became a thing?
Ooh, I don't know.
Can we Google
Give it,
that?
give it a goog. I'm gonna
Goog
say 1957.
65 is my guess.
I'm gonna go out on a limb here and say
You're gonna go earlier?
Yeah, I'm gonna go 350 BCE.
Wow, that's
Because the crazy thing is, so the
Wow.
thing
that's
thing
really
that's
a long
interesting
time
is
ago,
like
man.
Yeah.
think about how long humans have been around for, and then like how 2,000 years, right? Humans have been around for since the birth of Christ,
I
right?
mean, that's
Well, listen to
so-
this. I got a little thing here about
I think the general
cremation.
consensus is 4 to
I got-
6,000.
Let's stay on track here. I got to think about cremation. The Cremation Act of 1902 is an act of parliament in the Parliament of the United Kingdom. The major purpose of the act was to allow burial authorities to establish crematoria. Later revisions of the act outlawed open-air cremations using funeral pyres.
There couldn't have been anything environmental about this at that time.
No, I highly doubt it. I doubt that there was. Open-air pyre funerals were made illegal in Britain by the 1930 issue of the Cremation Act.
But like that
prior to this, but after the 1902 Act, open-air cremations had occurred in limited numbers, including several Hindu and Sikh soldiers cremated in Brighton, having died after fighting for the British Empire in the World War I. The last open-air pyre was believed to have occurred in 1934 when the British government gave special permission to Nepal's ambassador to cremate his wife outdoors in Surrey. Doesn't really go into, at least here, why they were deciding not to. I mean,
I feel like at that time it was like, oh, we all sort of feel like this is weird, so illegal.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, probably something like that. Mm-hmm. Back to this thing about Maine. A bill before the state legislature Health and Human Services Committee would allow a nonprofit that possesses at least 20 acres to carry out open-air cremations one at a time and to scatter the ashes on the property. That sounds really beautiful. A nonprofit cemetery group called Good Ground, Great Beyond, formed in 2018, is trying to get permission to have outdoor funeral pyres on a 63-acre forecasted parcel it has owned in Dresden for the past couple of years.
What do you guys think is so attractive about having an open air cremation, like funeral pyre ceremony?
The exact same thing that makes me attracted to the idea of a sky burial, which is like, it's like this connection to like earth and sky, and like you just you really are just becoming one with the fucking,
or is it that it's
with your surroundings,
or is it that it now is exotic? Because I wonder if at one point, imagine if like burials were outlawed, and like 100 years from now, people are like, man, wouldn't it just be beautiful to be like one with the ground?
I wonder.
With a concrete slab under the earth.
Do you think it's because it's romanticized in like these movies that we were talking about? Like,
I think there's there's probably a little bit of that happening, but I do think it's probably more so this, because the idea, even before we started getting into talking about what we would want to do with our bodies when we die, which is like a big part of discussions that we've had on this podcast fucking thousands of times over the past 6 years. Even before that, I always thought the idea of like being put in a box under the ground 6 feet, like I was always just like, that seems weird to me. Like I would way rather be just like fucking left in the woods, or like, or something. Just I like the idea of
putting a dildo.
It's the box thing though, because like I find the box,
that's the weird part.
The box doesn't speak to me.
What are we trying to do? Protect.
But we know that there's like that there has since, or that has like developed into like a profit.
Well, it totally 100%.
Plus, I mean, you have like formaldehyde in your body and shit or whatever. Yeah. So like I think it's partly to protect the environment too, right? By not having your body with all of the chemicals and shit in it.
No, that is. Ground. I mean, that's definitely a part of it. That's also a part of why with a green burial, you need to be a certain distance from water supplies. It has to be like there's regulations on like where you can just bury a body in the on your back lot.
It's also like really anticlimactic, I find, the way that funerals and stuff are done. Whereas if your body is burned in front of everybody all at once that cares about you, that's still living, like I think that brings like a sense of maybe climax and like real finality that just like a box and a photo of you at a more traditional funeral doesn't do.
Yeah. Wouldn't it be sweet to be fired out of a fucking cannon with a whole bunch of explosives in you, and then people just watch you get fucking shot into the air, and then you just go
talk about finality,
and you just become like blood dust.
Well, that's kind of what happened. What's his name did?
An ending.
What's his
Yeah.
name? Fear and Loathing in Las Vegas.
I thought you were gonna say Super Dave.
I've never seen it
Osborne.
all the way through.
No, the author.
Hunter S. Thompson.
Hunter S. Thompson. He got blown out of a cannon.
Did he actually?
His
Yeah,
his dead
yeah,
body.
his ashes. They went just fucking.
Yeah.
That's kind of cool.
Dude, Hunter
Yeah.
S. Thompson is a fascinating character.
I believe Johnny Depp pulled the trigger too. Actually.
Yeah, they were homies, the best homies.
Yeah. So anyway, that's kind of cool that this happened down in Maine. Maybe that's where I'll go. Maybe
We
that's
should
where I'll go.
start, guys. We should actually, do something with our lives and leave a legacy here in Nova Scotia by petitioning the government to make this legal here.
Yeah.
Let's make that our fight.
That should be our thing.
Yeah, screw Tricafta.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, but like imagine if you have the funeral pyre, then like you'll be looking forward to dying more.
To your point, Brian, or to your point, Taylor, about the environmental risks. In a report for the United Kingdom's Ministry of Justice, Ivan Vince, an expert in combustion science, looked into the environmental and health risks connected to open air cremation and found nothing to worry about. Vince said that the health risks are negligible beyond 500 meters. So there goes your fucking s'more idea, Brian. And even those close up are taking no greater risk than, oh wait, hold on, I take it back. Are taking no greater risk than they would at a bonfire the same size.
Oh, yeah.
He also concluded that funeral pyres held on woodland sites would have zero carbon footprint and make a perfect place to roast s'mores. Oh, well, that's fucking.
He didn't say that.
No.
Fucking liar.
Yeah, so that's kind of
man.
cool, eh? Good
That
for
is very
Maine.
cool.
What
Good
do you
for Maine.
think? What do you think are the risks associated with making s'mores off your burning friend's body?
I think he just said, "Oh no, that was a joke."
That was a joke. He didn't say that. I mean, I don't know. It's
I would
not
say
like you're gonna like.
nothing.
I don't think you have to be worried about like bloodborne illnesses. You probably like.
And the
It's
fire
probably-
burns that shit off.
Yeah, it's probably the best way to have a
Starts to
funeral.
burn.
Like,
What?
because it's an outdoor
Starts to
activity.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know?
Guys, just
It's
tell me
safe.
I'm right.
Sure. You know what? In talking about the sky burial thing, while I was kind of prepping this, I was like, oh, maybe I'll get a video and show you guys the sky burial, like the
that'd be
actual
cool.
footage of it. Yeah, and because I've seen footage of it, and it is really cool. And then me looking for it, I stumbled across this documentary that I am just going to recommend that you go watch because I think it's like it's a beautiful documentary. It's short. It's 20 minutes. And I think it won some awards. It was very beautiful and very well done. It's called Vultures of Tibet. Sky burial tourism threatens a Tibetan Buddhist ritual. And really bummed me out. Watching that documentary made me go, oh, hold on.
That's your
I'm
thing.
not going to find video footage of this and just like pump it out onto YouTube for all of our listeners and viewers to watch.
I'll put a link in the description.
No, don't. The whole movie is basically about how this very ancient Tibetan funerary ritual has become this weird tourism obsession where basically the little write-up here says relations between Tibet and China have been fraught for centuries. However, China's 1950 invasion of Tibet and its repression of an ensuing 1959 Tibetan uprising, which resulted in the Dalai Lama fleeing to India, marked a definitive turning point. Since that time, the migration of Han Chinese, China's ethnic majority, and an influx of global tourism to the region has resulted in significant encroachments on and challenges to traditional Tibetan Buddhist culture. So the documentary basically shows these people that are tourists who are showing up to these ritual sites, and like the public officials that exist within the the town that these sites are kind of located in or located just outside of. The officials there saw this opportunity to like monetize the very, private ritual that's happening with these monks.
Mm-hmm.
And
it's not just like a Tibetan culture thing.
No, it's like
monks specifically.
Yeah, it's a very specific sect of these monks that do it. And so these tourists will show up and they'll like pay money for a ticket and then like, you know, in the town, in the city, and then they'll get a ride out to the location. And these monks are like trying to basically, you know, their whole thing is that this is a practice that is believed to like help the transition of the dead one go on to the next chapter, right? And so you have these monks that are like doing this process of like taking a body and you know, cutting it up and prepping it for these fucking these giant fucking vultures. They are so badass looking, and they're like haunching over, like waiting.
Don't talk about how cool it is.
No, the vultures are fucking cool, dude. Yeah, 100%. They're the fucking coolest animal.
But definitely not worth looking. Up the YouTube
not.
video.
Yeah, you can you can find vultures on fucking. Just look up David Attenborough talking about vultures.
Sure. Yeah.
And so they're like trying to do this you know, this beautiful ritual. But then, like, up and over a hill, a bus rolls up and, like, hordes of people start coming up and they're, like, taking photos and laughing and, like, having a whole fucking thing. This is all in this documentary. And it's like, and then one of the monks are, like, you know, he takes it upon himself to go up and kind of try to intimidate them away, like, scare them off. And yeah, it's just, like, it was just really gross. And,
some
like,
people just don't.
And fascinating.
Because I think that there is a way for that to happen, for that to be done in a way where like people could view or participate or could view it like tastefully and respectfully. But like some people just don't. It reminds me of when like I was on safari a couple of years ago and we stopped and there was these two lions and this male lion kind of like walks over to this female lion and it's kind of like, yo,
start fucking, right?
Let's fuck.
Yeah, dude.
And I'm sitting there like,
free? Was it free?
Holy shit. They're about to have sex. And I'm just fascinated by this. And I'm taking a video of it and I'm going this, and I'm thinking to myself, wow, this is crazy. And I'm thinking, yeah, everybody just be really quiet. Cause like,
right, this is a beautiful moment.
And there's people
Did you
around,
upload that shit to Pornhub, dude?
People around that are like, oh my God, I wonder if he took her to dinner. And you're like, fuck, dude, shut up. Like
I can just see your dad yelling that.
Oh, I'm like, just watch.
Tell me it was your dad.
Just watch this. Just what? It was,
hey, take you to dinner first, that bud. You got a good shot there.
and I'm just going, man, just watch this crazy thing and just watch in awe and in silence because it's happening right before your eyes. And it is an incredible thing that is happening on this planet that we should feel extremely fortunate that we're able to just fucking roll up in this SUV and watch. And like similar to the sky burial thing, it's like, okay, sure. If there's going to be, if people go there, like the fact that they're there is like, okay, there's a question there. Should they be there? Should they not be there?
Yeah.
But then it's like, then add on the layer of like,
can you imagine though?
Taking photos.
It's like, can you
like,
imagine you guys show up to my funeral and it's like a very like North American funeral outside. Everyone's wearing black. You're all on one side of the already dug 6 feet hole. My casket is on like the sort of conveyor belt that slowly lowers me in. There's a priest. He's reading like, high priest
David McGinley.
David McGinley is there, and my mom's got like my mom's crying and
she's got big glasses on.
Leah, they're like they've got the black like
little
veil,
widow's veil, and they're both crying, and David McGinley's like reading a passage, and then all of a sudden a bus pulls up and a bunch of tourists get out and they're like, "Oh, over here! No, get a shot!"
They're a bunch of
Whoa,
Tibet
look how tall that fucking priest is, like, and they're just
yabba
yabba.
They would, and then they would want to jump in the pictures, take pictures with your dead fucking body.
Yeah,
I worked in tourism for years, and it is wild.
How
people are
That's
audacious.
a perfect example though, because
that's
that
what
is what is happening.
That is literally what's happening in this doc.
It's crazy, Taylor. The type of person that you said calling out on the bus, like those types of tourists just belong at Disney World. Like they should only go to Disney
And
World.
also,
and that's
Disney
it.
World, great place for that.
Yeah,
It's a great,
Fucking
exactly.
great place for that.
It's a perfect
a
place
great
for
place.
that.
You want to see lions fuck and say that crazy shit? Go to Busch Gardens. There's lions there. They're probably real sleepy, but you never know. Maybe you get lucky.
Yeah, it's probably
way too sleepy.
Probably Doc from South Carolina and our buddy fucking
Yeah. So
Tiger King.
again, the
Joe
the
Exotic.
Joe Exotic's tigers.
the documentary is called Vultures of Tibet. Sky burial tourism threatens a Tibetan Buddhist ritual. I highly suggest you go check it out. We'll put a link to the show, to the actual doc in the show notes, or right below here if you're watching on YouTube. Really great doc, but yeah, it was the first time I ever took a moment to go, oh wait, whoa, weird that I've even fetishized.
Yeah.
See,
you know,
when
myself.
When you
know,
brought
in
it
the
up,
past.
I thought you meant there was this like like a perverse influx of people coming to do it.
No, quite the opposite.
That's because I was like, oh, okay,
that kind of makes
that's
sense to me. Of
interesting.
of people, that to me isn't that weird. To me, that's like, oh, this is what a beautiful way to, whatever your belief is, transition to the next, to the
Whatever.
afterlife, or what it, like, you know, give back to the world now that I don't need this body. Like,
Yeah.
if you want to do that, I think that's great. I think it's a little fucking weird if you're showing up being like taking your fucking selfie TikTok with a selfie stick and pointing at the body that's getting
It really is just
devoured
like
by
a
bunch of
caricature of 2021.
It's funny though because it's interesting because like I can one see how like it would be totally unacceptable to just like take on that cultural ceremony and practice it and go and want to have like the cultural experience of the sky burial. I could see like taking the cultural aspect out of it and just wanting to have your fucking body picked apart by vultures and carried into the sky. Like that seems like, you know, it makes sense because it's like that sort of like innate sort of natural desire as bodies on this planet to want to become part of the planet again. And I think for me, like I really like this idea of burning my body in like an open air pyre. But like I personally would want to be on a boat. Like I would want to be like on a raft.
Yeah, fuck yeah.
and with me with a flaming arrow.
Oh
Yeah,
yeah.
and I go,
Fuck
here we
yeah.
go.
Prestige
Yeah.
worldwide. Prestige
Yeah.
world fucking wide.
And send it to the ocean because
I'm
like
on a
I really
fucking
connect with
boat.
the water. Like I feel like water really speaks to me. So
You want me to put you in a Plastex and just
Yeah.
push,
Fucking- that's like a sprint
push,
kayak.
push you out
Um,
into Lake Banook.
So here's another thing that I think I think it's probably safe to say everyone who has been listening to the podcast for a long time knows we are all, maybe not Lauren, but I know the three of us are big dog lovers. Lauren loves her pussy, and so we I saw this story and it got me so excited. Lo, I think you dropped it in the Slack, and I love it. It's the title of this article coming from iol.co.za.
My favorite
Sounds
publication.
reputable.
It's very reputable. It says Thailand successfully trains dogs to sniff out COVID-19 in seconds. Now,
Whoa.
I actually looked this up. It's totally legit.
We should have a
researchers-
segment called Good Boys.
Good Boys
We
only.
should, because we have talked several times
Good
about
boys
all the
only.
things that dogs can sniff out way
Yeah.
better than human-made machinery. can.
Yeah. So this is fucking fascinating. Researchers in Thailand have successfully trained 6 sniffer Labrador retrievers. Good boys.
Aw.
Such good
As part of a
boys.
6-month pilot project
Are
to
there
identify the
pictures?
coronavirus in just 2 seconds.
Whoa.
According to the to Channel News Asia (CNA), researchers from Thailand's Chulalongkorn
got it.
University,
Sorry,
led by
Can you-
Professor
one more time.
Kwali Chattarong, said coronavirus patients emitted a distinct scent through their perspiration, which allowed the sniffer dogs to detect the virus.
Wow.
She went on to say, quote, "The dogs are different from the usual temperature screening methods in that they can detect those who may have the virus but are asymptomatic with no fever. The dogs will be able to detect these people. Their accuracy rate of detection
Hold on, Brian. Hold on.
is
Brian,
94.8%.
Brian looks skeptical.
No, I'm not skeptical. I think dogs can do anything. I think dogs
can.
should replace doctors in ER rooms. Like
Well,
dogs would
okay.
just be
I was
probably,
with you for a second.
I think they should replace our entire governmental system.
I was
looks
thinking
like
that
he's-
too, actually.
He looks like he's recording a podcast.
Oh, look at the little
this sweet
guy.
little guy. I'll find other ones that
That's
we
so
what,
can
cute.
put
what
up.
I was
but
actually
yeah.
thinking though is I was thinking about how many more people would go get COVID tested if a dog was sniffing you.
So check this out. This is from a recent NASCAR event.
What?
All these people are
Got it.
lined up
You got COVID. Got it.
6
got
feet
it.
apart, and the dog, just like at the airport, sniffing for drugs, goes up and sniffs their hands. What a good boy! Look at this good boy. So excited to, loves his job. Look, he's like, "Hey, sniff this one.
This one's got it.
This one? No, sniff that one.
This one's
Dude,
okay.
how bummed would you be though if he sat next to you and you were like, oh, I think I would rather have a drug dog sniff me and sit next to me than have a COVID dog sniff me and sit next
So
to me.
that's what they do. If you got it, he sits.
Well, yeah. I mean, if you go
That's
to
what
if you go to the airport and a dog comes up to you and sniffs you and then sits down,
Oh, you fucked.
you fucked. You gone fucked up.
She's super fucked.
Yeah,
Dude,
you
I was
are.
with somebody in Peru once, and I know that he had gone to Bolivia afterwards, I think as well, and I think he partied it up pretty heavily,
Yep.
and
Yep.
and we ended up he had gone to Peru, he had gone to Bolivia, we stayed in Peru. I'm not talking about you, Bri.
I was like,
Where's
dude,
Brian
was
going?
I on
No,
that trip?
no, it wasn't me. It wasn't me.
You were on this trip, yeah. And
I know
then,
who you're
and then we came back through Houston, and we ended up being on either on the same flight, or like his flight from Bolivia and our flight from Peru landed in Houston at the same time. And I remember we walked down, like we got out of the gate at like the same time. We walked down, and I remember that seeing a drug dog, and he was definitely doing coke in Bolivia.
Yeah, right.
And
Uh-oh.
and he was like, oh, I mean,
Dude.
I don't have any, but
I had a dream like 3 nights ago that I was in that exact situation. That I, for some reason, had a bunch of cocaine on me, which is not ever typically the
That doesn't
case.
sound like the exact
It's
same
never-
situation.
it's never
typically the case.
case.
And a dog, and I was at an airport, and a drug sniffing dog was coming up to me, and I was going, oh no, and then I woke up.
That's a good time
they
to
always
wake up.
make you feel like you're doing something wrong,
Even when you
but
don't
at the
have
same
drugs.
time, I want to just cuddle with them.
Yeah.
And isn't that such a mind trip? Can you imagine, like, because I love dogs. God, I love dogs so much.
That dog's coming to fuck up your day.
I
Yeah.
fucking hate humans. I love dogs.
See, that's a cop dog, man.
I love dogs. Dude, if I saw
All cop dogs are bad.
well, they're pretty vicious. They can be pretty vicious. But I mean, if a
True.
dog came and sat next to me, like the feeling I would have of going, you betrayed me, you son of a bitch, you
Yeah.
bastard. But I love you. You're so cute because
Yeah.
they're usually quite cute. They're like quite cute.
Oh,
labs and-
they're always such excited
Ugh.
dogs.
Yeah.
They're
Yeah.
so ramped up.
Yeah, guys, I got a COVID test last night. No, the night before last.
Oh, yeah?
It tickled
Yeah,
your
it was
brain,
sick.
didn't
Was
you?
it a rapid
Yeah.
one?
Yeah. What's the difference in like the
You get
like
the
nose
results like
swab?
immediately. No,
Oh.
they test you the same. You just get your results.
took like
super fast.
24 hours.
The difference in the rapid test and the full test, it's the same test. But the results, this is how I understand it anyway, is that the results that you get like 15 minutes later are like there's a high chance you don't have COVID, but like there's still a window where you could be positive.
So it's
in that
not.
same
It's
test.
not good boy
Correct
sniffing.
me if I'm wrong there.
It's not good boy sniffing accurate, but it's
No.
pretty accurate.
It's basically like, hey, there's like a super, let's say like 80+% chance that you don't have COVID from this test. Like they can tell that within 15
I
minutes.
fucking. Speaking of smelling, I can smell an email coming from Louise after you saying that.
but then
Fucking
as
right
I
around the
and then
goddamn
as I
corner.
understand it, then that same test, like over the next 24 hours or so could produce potentially a different result, but it rarely. I think
You know
it
what? One of
rarely
the
does.
you know what? One of the most surprising things that I've learned about medical innovation and technologies and the human body since we started this podcast.
Qu'est-ce que c'est?
It is how far they can put things into your body,
Dude.
So far.
number one,
you
needles,
see that thing
like needles
going
like,
into your nose. It's crazy.
Yeah,
I was talking to somebody.
yeah,
I was
dude.
talking to somebody who went to a fire station, or they had firefighters that were trained to give the test, and obviously it's like a nurse is like, you teach a nurse how to do the thing, and a nurse is like, okay, cool. So they just go, I'm going to take this, and I know exactly where to put it in, and I pull it out.
It is like that. That is like
the firefighter though was like, okay, and he pulls out the stick, and he goes, can you just hold your head still? I gotta.
Oh, holy
I
fuck,
gotta-
this is long.
Yeah. He goes, whoa, okay, whoa, and then he goes, just hold your head still. He goes,
Jesus Christ.
I gotta measure this thing from your nose to the back of your ear, and like held the stick to their face and was like going from like tip of nose to ear, and who I was talking to was getting it measured, was like, wait, whoa, how long, how far? And he's like, Jesus, it's like, yeah, it's like, I think that's what they said.
I got to put it all the way.
That's what they said.
I'm pretty sure that's what they told me to do. And they're like, is the nurse around?
Yeah, I would feel uncomfortable
Oh my
about that
God.
too.
Are you fucking
So-
kidding me? I'd be like, I'm a firefighter.
So-
no,
so
I ain't
It was
sticking
that's
tubes up
funny.
people's nose.
So it's funny because I like put a ton of trust into nurses, rightfully so, and it's funny because when the nurse pulled the thing out and like it was long as fuck, I was like, geez, that's gonna go all the way into my brain. It's gonna touch my brain.
Yeah.
And sure enough, like just confidently, she put it into my
Yeah.
nose, and then she was like, all right, I'm just gonna give it a little twist and pull it out. And like the worst part is that it has to sit in there for like 10 seconds or whatever. So like she just like is like standing there with her arms crossed, like, all right, checking the time. And then like it's like, okay, you're gonna feel a little twist, and it feels uncomfortable because it's way up in your brain.
Yeah, it's touching
So-
parts of your body where you're like, no one's touched me here
and
before.
it's so like I was so
Yeah, that's how it
surprised
sounds.
at
To
how
stick
far
one of those tubes up your urethra.
Well, it doesn't go
Yeah.
in. It goes in and then back.
Well, yeah.
And then it would start to curve
Like-
down. Kind of starts to curve down.
Did I tell? I know I told you guys, but did I tell the story on the podcast about what happened to my friend Chris when he got tested early days? I'm sure we get new listeners every week. Chris goes in and that was a little humble brag. Chris goes in and sits down, and this is like he's a teacher. This was like early COVID days, and he sits down, and the nurse she
how early?
like pretty early, like
March, April?
Like a year ago?
like May, maybe like May of 2020.
That's early.
And so nurse comes in and she's like, okay, I'm just going to take this, and it's a swab that I have to put all the way up your nose, and then I hold it for 5 seconds. Okay. And then I take it out. And he's like, okay. Now you got to picture Chris. He looks like Hagrid. He's this very, very broad shouldered, large human at the time, massive beard, long curly hair, looks exactly like Hagrid. And he's like, okay, probably like looming over this petite, young, like newish nurse. And she goes, okay, here we go. And she sticks the thing in there, and she's like, okay, I'm just going to leave that for 5, 4. And she's like, unwrapping the other thing to like take it and put, to put the garbage in. And she goes, 3, okay, and I'm going to take it out now. And she grabs the knob that the stick is on, and she goes,
No. No.
when she pulls the knob, only the knob comes with it.
No.
The stick's not on it. And Chris is like, huh? And she's like, okay, don't move. And he's like, what? What's going on?
Oh
And she's
my
like,
God.
I'll be right back. He was up there for like 5 minutes. She had to go get a
Oh,
doctor.
fuck.
Doctor came
that
with
feels so
tweezers, and they had to go in and like, okay, don't move. Don't breathe through your nose. Don't move. Fucking pulled the thing out.
Oh, wow. I can't believe you didn't
that's
tell me
like
that
when I-
story
Did I
before.
tell you guys that story?
No, you've never said it.
No.
You've
Yeah,
never
yeah,
said it
yeah.
on the
First time on
podcast.
the podcast.
That's like
too.
when I put that toilet paper in my ears
Yeah, right.
at that band show and had to go to the hospital to
At
get
that
it
band
pulled
show,
out.
yeah.
At that old band show.
that
The
people, they
band,
had
that plays the theme
was
music
instruments.
for this
Yeah.
podcast.
Hey, do you guys want to hear the crazy case report study that I found this week?
Lay it on me.
We got this new segment. We haven't come up with a title for it. Actually, maybe we can throw it to our listeners. If you have a good title for our crazy case studies,
Comment section.
yeah, leave a comment below. Or
And in this particular case,
Keep it civil.
No need to keep it civil.
Yeah,
Get
keep-
crazy.
yeah. Don't keep it civil.
Get crazy with those.
How should I start this? I'm gonna start with a video here. All right. Let's check this out. I'm gonna get you to guess what is happening, but don't guess until I've shown you all three. Okay? We've got 3 examples here.
You just fart.
Did you swallow it?
Okay, and here's number 2.
No way.
You gotta sit right next to
You're possessed. Bro, it does look like that. Oh, yucky. That's in my throat. Wow.
Okay, and then here's number 3.
Oh,
Oh,
Uncle Zell.
oh God, it's so green. Oh my God. Oh, Jesus. Wow.
Oh my
Okay,
God.
at my first inclination.
What do you guys think is happening there?
Now it changed through, and I'm really not sure. At the very beginning, I thought it was like some type of like hot chip challenge or some shit like that. But then with the greenness, and then I saw a thing of milk. But then there was the milk there.
So for
So
people,
maybe it was
for
a-
people who were just listening, we just watched 3 videos of people who looked very uncomfortable, snot, spit, fluid, just pouring out of all of their orifices in their face. They all look like they're about to vomit. Some of them do. And then in that last video, that woman was like, she was having a coughing fit. Also, that cough. Can we just listen to that cough one more time?
yeah, let's do it.
Listen to this fucking thing. She is so uncomfortable, having a hard time breathing. Listen to this cough.
Dude, that is deep.
That is a lung infection.
You know, I'm and this is just based on the milk that was on the counter
Mhm.
in the second video.
Mhm.
I'm gonna go with some type of hot saucy type of
Like a hot sauce challenge.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Brian, what do you
Yeah,
think's happening?
I was thinking the same thing because of the milk, but because Taylor picked that, I'm gonna go with a. Have you guys ever done the cinnamon challenge, where you have like a spoonful full of cinnamon?
Have I ever done it? Fuck no.
Guys,
Yeah, I
can
have.
we
It's
go
crazy.
get?
Who's
Can
doing
we? Can
this?
we go get wings and just like fuck our mouths up?
Yeah.
I get
yeah, I would love
such
it.
a hankering
Yeah.
to have wings and get. I just want to get uncomfortable.
Yeah, I'm with you.
I'm down too.
It's almost a religious experience.
It really is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Fuck yeah.
Lo, what do you think's happening?
I think that it looked like people had green in their mouths. So I'm not sure what, but I think that it is of green color.
Right.
like
Well-
acid, like
Yeah.
there's sulfuric acid.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, it's the sulfuric acid challenge.
It's the radioactive waste challenge.
Well, here, how about this?
It's a new ALS.
before I give you
fundraiser.
before,
drive.
yeah,
It's
before I
called the ice fuck it challenge. And you just fucking,
before I tell you what they were doing, have you guys ever heard of Takotsubo cardiomyopathy? Takotsubo cardiomyopathy.
sounds like it's named after a Japanese scientist.
Yeah.
I was gonna say somebody who is of Japanese and Mexican descent.
Takotsubo?
Yeah, yeah, right.
Yeah.
There's a Takotsubo. Takotsubo. Takotsubo
Great pronunciation.
cardiomyopathy is a temporary heart condition. Actually, you know what, guys? We met someone who was convinced that they had Takotsubo.
broken heart syndrome.
syndrome.
It is broken heart syndrome.
Yeah.
Takotsubo cardiomyopathy is a temporary heart condition that is brought on by stress. It has the same symptoms as a heart attack, but it is not caused by any underlying cardiovascular disease. It is also known as stress cardiomyopathy, apical ballooning, or broken heart syndrome.
Oh.
Takotsubo cardiomyopathy most often affects women between the ages of 61 and 76 years. The condition commonly occurs immediately after experiencing extreme emotional or physical stress. So a couple of years ago, the 3 of us flew down to Los Angeles. we were meeting up with a production company that were really interested in Sick Boy and what we were up to, and they wanted to like shoot a pilot for a series that they were going to pitch to like Apple TV and Netflix and all this shit. I'm sure it's fine that I fucking say this, but anyway, whatever. Part of this like series that we were pitching, this pilot that we were shooting, they found subjects for us to interview on this show. And they found one guy who was convinced that he was dying of Takotsubo cardiomyopathy.
It was Robert, right?
His name was Robert. And what had happened was Robert's wife died. And he was convinced he was dying of broken heart syndrome.
Dude, just thinking of it like makes me want to cry.
It was a really, I mean, the conversation was so beautiful. It was a very emotional situation.
I just love that guy.
He was such a fucking sweetheart.
And it was weird because it was set up. And I don't mean this like negatively to the producers, but like it was set up sort of like we were sort of set up to think that he was crazy.
Well, yeah. So the thing was that the producers, he told his story to them, and they were like, "This isn't real," because they had heard from his doctors, like, "Oh no, like Robert is actually fine," and so they were kind of like, "Whoa!" They're like, I think they saw it as like, "Whoa, there's this really weird thing happening where this guy is like thinks he's gonna die, but really he's not." And after talking with him, we just came to realize that, like, yes, mentally he is convinced that he's dying. Now, whether or not that's actually true, it seemed pretty clear that it wasn't based on everything else that we had been hearing. But really what the conversation was about like how hard grief can be, and this guy was like deeply grieving so badly that like he didn't want to continue. He didn't want to live anymore. And so, but he didn't want to kill himself. He wasn't in any sort of situation where he wanted to end his life.
He kept reassuring us that he didn't want to, though he was saying that he was very comfortable
with the idea
dying.
of death.
Oh, guys, we should try.
I know.
Because we have
I
the
would love
the
to.
audio wasn't, we didn't record it like for the podcast because it was for this
whatever.
thing.
We can, let's see if we can get him on the show. That would be amazing.
But we did record it.
We did, yeah.
And fuck.
Yeah.
The other episode was really great too.
It'd be great to get the audio.
So Robert really thought that he had Takotsubo cardiomyopathy. People with Takotsubo cardiomyopathy, I'm just going to say that this is so fucking hard on my mouth. I'm just going to say broken heart syndrome. Often mistake it for a heart attack. Broken heart syndrome can be set off by emotional events. So in Robert's case, the death of his wife. Symptoms can include chest pain and shortness of breath. The condition is usually treated with a short stay in a hospital. Most people recover from broken heart syndrome within a few days to a week. But it is actually it is a physiological event that's happening. So just not to be confused with what we were saying about Robert, like this isn't something that's made up. When you have broken heart syndrome, you can die from it. Like it's pretty. It can be bad.
So what's the deal here? That eating really spicy wings cures it?
Well,
oh fuck, dude! I completely forgot.
Yeah,
that we were talking about. I completely forgot.
So here, this comes from the case report. Wasabi and avocado are both popular green foods, but you probably don't want to confuse one with the other, given their drastically different tastes and levels of spiciness. What's more, for a woman in Israel, this mix-up may have led her to develop broken heart syndrome.
What?
The 60-year-old woman was attending a wedding when she ate a large amount of wasabi, which she thought was avocado. According to the report.
Has she never seen Steve Brule?
I love guacamole. It's my favorite. What's that? Oh, it's really hot guacamole. Holy guacamole, yeah.
She's a 60-year-old woman from Israel. I'm going to guess no.
Avocado.
According to the report published in September 20th, the journal BMJ Case reports, a few minutes later, she felt a sudden pressure in her chest radiating to her arms. The next day, she was diagnosed with broken heart syndrome, a condition in which the heart's main pumping chamber, the left ventricle, becomes enlarged and weakened so that it doesn't pump properly. The condition can be triggered by emotional or physical stress. In this case, doctors suspect that the burning mouthful of wasabi may have triggered the woman. I'm not laughing. This is not funny. The poor lady, but also fucking funny.
Well,
fortunately, the condition is usually temporary, and the woman recovered after about a month of treatment with
Whoa.
heart
Dude.
medications.
That'll do it. I've been given wasabi as a prank before, and it's the only spicy thing I do not like.
Guys,
Same.
There's a
I
trick,
don't like it
man.
at all.
this guy.
Does he fart?
He's
there?
farting too.
No, that's the other guy that also took it with him. Going, oh,
Wait, so how much did they have?
they had a spoonful. You know those spoons that you get at like a Japanese restaurant that like come with your miso,
like the miso
like
spoon.
the
Oh,
big miso
jeez.
spoon.
Oh, yeah.
A full spoon like that.
That is
Guys,
so much.
There's a trick to eating wasabi. You're not supposed to eat wasabi on its own anyway. Like, do you know when
You're supposed to have it with peaches.
that's Steve Brule.
Sliced peaches.
I'm gonna put that clip in this. But that's the reason why the ginger is there.
Yeah.
Because the ginger, pickled ginger, like totally
Have you ever? So
negates the spiciness of, or what I guess balances the spiciness.
yeah, we like balance it out.
Yeah.
I know speaking of hot sauce, we've sat around and Hot One's pretty popular YouTube show where people eat hot wings and get asked questions. There's one of the sauces on there called the
Best interview show on the planet. in my
Probably, yeah.
opinion.
One of the sauces on there called Da Bomb. Super hot, really gross. Actually, it's not a very good sauce either, but it's extraordinarily hot and really, really intense. And we've stuck our fingers in and licked it, and it's like, wow, it's this fun thing. Have you ever taken wasabi? That's one thing to take wasabi and put it just on your tongue and be like, whoa, that was really intense. But have you ever taken wasabi? No, and rammed it right up your asshole?
Oh,
No, I
yeah,
haven't.
yeah. Well, I do that
You
every
have?
time I go for sushi. Yeah.
It makes you immediately puke out of your
Mouth?
penis.
No, your penis. Yeah, it's
Like,
crazy.
it makes you cum?
Makes you cum.
Yeah, but it's not actual cum. It's like
Stimulates
a
your prostate?
it's a mix of urine and seminal fluid. Like it's
Nice.
just
It's
weird.
squirt.
So it's like-
That's
squirt,
so
yeah.
hot.
and it's
squirt. That is what
For your
squirt
next
is.
date night, folks.
it just sort of blows out. It's a cleanse. It's a yogic cleanse actually.
Yeah,
Taylor,
that's
I'm
right.
surprised you don't know about this. It's a thing because you just
Surprised you haven't heard about this.
So what
You
you
haven't
do
heard
is
about
you
this?
take the wasabi, you
Is
form
this
it into
in Pradipika?
Yeah, it is. It's second page, I think. So you take the wasabi and you actually form it into take it between your fingers like this,
Like a
and you
booger?
form it into a cube,
Oh,
in like a
cube.
dice size, cube,
Mhm.
and then you just take that and take one finger and you just put it right up. It has to go like
Interesting that you're supposed
3
to
or
make
4
edges with it.
inches. Yeah, about 3 or 4 inches into your butthole, and as soon as it does, you count down from 5, and then straight out of the
You
other
gotta
end.
clench though so it doesn't come out,
Yeah.
right? Because you
Yeah,
probably
well,
immediately
yeah,
want to blast it out, right?
So you're holding because it
No,
wants
that's
to come
the
out.
thing with wasabi.
Yeah,
Wasabi has this crazy vacuum
binding like it's a sealant.
It's a vacuum
Interesting.
effect where it basically you put it in the asshole and it goes.
Yeah. So take that, Louise.
This weekend?
Your mouth goes, and it just fart comes out of your mouth.
Fart comes out of your mouth while the squirt comes
Jeez.
out of your
Oh my god, guys! All
your
right,
penis.
listen, let's move right along here. Let's wrap this shit up. But before we do, we have a fascinating letter that I got really
do.
excited about. This came in response to our episode with Mark Hennick that came out last week, all about the bill that has been proposed to include mental illness
And
within
passed.
MAID, the options for seeking MAID. Mark Hennick, a mental health advocate, very strongly disagrees with this, and so we gave him a platform to speak about that. And we were all like, yeah, fuck, sounds like it makes sense. Like, why would we want to open this up to just give people an out if they have mental illness?
He raises a lot of good questions.
He raised a lot of good
Yeah.
questions. However, we ended up getting an email that was kind of on the other side of things, and it was again one of those moments where I just kind of had to go, oh yeah, right. The whole world's everything's nuanced, nothing's black and white, and there really is always things to consider. And although we don't have a guest lined up, I would love to figure out a way we can get a guest to speak to the other side of it, because this really was a really interesting email and some food for thought. So Lo, if you want to hit the email.
Absolutely. So this comes to us from Amy. Full disclosure up front, I'm a palliative care physician and an assessor and provider of MAID. So I come to this discussion with an opinion that's partially informed by these experiences. I'll be very clear. I'm still working through my personal feelings about Bill C7 and how this will impact my practice of MAID. That said, I feel compelled to point out some inaccuracies in your conversation with Mark. Mark states that MAID started out in Canada as specifically for, quote, people at the end of their life, they're probably dying, unquote. This is factually incorrect. Oh. Mm-hmm. Carter v. Canada is the landmark Supreme Court of Canada case that found the prohibition of assisted suicide to be in violation of the Canadian Charter of Rights and Freedoms in February 2015. Kay Carter, the key plaintiff in this challenge, did not have a terminal diagnosis, which is really interesting. So like everything this is founded on, it's, I don't know, like medically assisted death in Canada was founded on it not being a terminal illness. So that's really interesting. I didn't know that. So the ruling from the Supreme Court did not stipulate that individuals accessing assisted suicide are required to have a terminal diagnosis. So as a result of the Carter v. Canada ruling, the federal government at the time was tasked with creating a new assisted dying law. This would eventually become Bill C-14, which first introduced the requirement that natural death be reasonably foreseeable in 2016. So the stipulation was immediately recognized as unconstitutional. Truchon and Gladue went on to challenge the eligibility criteria to ensure that MAID could be accessed by individuals with intolerable and irremediable suffering, even if they were not necessarily at the end of their lives.
Right. So people who are living with some sort of illness that is causing just immense amounts of pain, and it is not curable.
Exactly. It's not going to go away.
Like Truchon or Gladue, I can't remember which one, had cerebral palsy.
Had CP, right.
Yeah. Very severe form of CP.
Yeah. So Bill C7, the current one that's going through Parliament right now, broadens access to MAID for some groups, but it is not a slippery slope. It simply brings Canada's law in line with the Charter. C7 is not a part of the, quote, liberal government agenda, unquote. And as Jeremy asked, yes, there is national data to suggest the general public is in support of C7. Mark also notes that there is no evidence that there exists incurable mental illness. In fact, there is an emerging recognition of a subspecialty field called palliative psychiatry.
Ooh.
Yeah, I found that very interesting. I want to know more about that.
Yeah, I'm working on booking someone to tell us more about this now. So Jocelyn Downey, Canada's leading legal expert on MAID, who's actually based here at Dalhousie.
Oh,
So
cool.
So I think I'll reach out to her.
100%.
Yeah, put it much more eloquently than me when she said that excluding mental illness from the MAID legislation is, quote, unconstitutional, unethical, and divorced from clinical reality. She also, she being Amy, points out that Bill C7 contains robust procedural safeguards to protect vulnerable patients that weren't touched on, and that the disability and mental health communities are not uniformly opposed to Bill C7. And then the last two paragraphs of her email, like, really, really were striking. So she wrote,
this is where she says that I'm her favorite and that Brian and Taylor are not quite as
exactly.
I was like,
I was very striking the way she worded that.
Yeah, I was gonna skip over that because they're right here. They're
Yeah. Right.
Just skip over it. It's fine.
So we'll skip over
I
that.
dealt with that mentally last week.
So Amy finishes this off by saying, I think there is a perception amongst opponents of Bill C7 that MAID providers walk around ready to end the life of anyone who asks because we're zealots, proponents of eugenics, because it's a cheap and easy solution to suffering. Sounds a bit crazy to me.
It does, doesn't it?
Yeah, when you put it that way. In fact, MAID assessors and providers are the most thorough, thoughtful, meticulous, and cautious individuals I've been privileged to learn from, who take great care in ensuring that the eligibility criteria and safeguards are met. They're also fierce advocates for their patients and agree wholeheartedly that we must increase access to mental health supports, housing, universal basic income, pharmacare, and disability supports for all individuals. These are shared goals. It is not a case of either we have better supports or we have MAID. We need both. And denying access to MAID for some is not the only way to protect vulnerable populations.
Very, very thoughtful, very appreciated email. Thank you so much for sending that in. And listen, like she stated there, I've spoken at a number of hospice and palliative care conferences around Canada and through the US. And yeah, like every single person that I've met and which a lot of the people that are there are also working in this field and offering these, like, you know, they're doing the work was it Amy?
Yes.
That Amy is doing. And they are some of the most like fucking beautiful, you know, compassionate
I mean, it's
people
really,
I've ever met.
It's really just pointing out that I don't think, like, Mark obviously speaks very passionately because he's very passionate.
Totally.
And so like that.
Yeah.
And so, you know, like the point about, you know, about it being, you know, maybe there's like a bit of like a nefarious,
The conspiracy theory part of it.
that sort of thing is like, you know,
it was a little tinfoil hattie.
But you know, it's this. I think it still remains the argument, the core of what Mark is saying, which I think, if you were going to boil it down, would be we need to do better, and we need more support for mental health, and we need to make that more accessible. And because in the conversation with Mark, we obviously touched on you know, there is, you know, if you break your arm, you get to go to the emergency room, and the government will pay for that. But, you know, if you fucking break something in your head, the government, you know, unless it's like dire, and you need to be committed to an institution, the government's not paying for that. You know, you're not getting, there's no emergency room for mental health. And so, I think pointing out like both of those things, like, hey, like there is this legal framework, and this, what C7 is doing is bringing MAID in line with with what has been agreed on legally, or what the legal decision that we came to as a country. But at the same time, also, we do need to do better so that we do have less people what's the word I'm looking for?
Diarrhea.
Less people with diarrhea.
That's exactly what you're trying to say. Yeah.
Well, Amy, thanks again for that. And folks, if you have a comment, or again, like I said at the end of that episode, if you have comments, concerns, you want to chime in on the conversation, we're always open to hearing from you. And that also goes for all the episodes. If you ever want to send us something, you can send us an email, letters@sickboypodcast.com, because it's we love hearing from you. And also, it's just stuff like this that kind of helps us keep chugging along here. You know, it gives us more things to think about and chew on and be curious about. And that's what you know, in a big part, that's what the show is.
It's
all
such
about.
an important perspective to have in this conversation. And, you know, when people get to weigh in, we get those diverse perspectives that help us better understand the nuances, as you said, Chair, of the situations.
Yeah.
And I don't think that conversation's over. Like,
no,
fuck
no.
No, like, you know,
no.
like there's a lot more there.
Yeah.
And I think, and I remember when C7 came out, and we were talking about it, and we at first were like, hey, we should talk to Mark and see what Mark thinks. I remember in that moment, we all basically kind of said, we should look at this from
Both sides,
from all the sides that are being taken, because you know, with something that is so that has such potential. I mean, you remember how controversial this was as a law, coming into law in 2016.
Yeah.
And what was the woman in the States name? Terry Schiavo.
Yeah.
Like, when that was all happening, like, how that was world news. You know, like, when it comes with something that's so just carries such weight with it, you need to.
Well, guys, to bring this full circle, I think that if we just had funeral pyres and we were allowed to do that, I think
we wouldn't even have to have this fucking.
We wouldn't even have to have it, because
That's
people
right.
would just be so stoked about fucking dying.
Yeah, that's
you're
right.
right. It'd be the cure-all.
The
Yeah,
legislation
Amy,
would
why
change.
didn't you fucking say that in your email?
The legislation would just change, and everybody would go, "Well, fuck it." Like anybody who wants to go this way,
folks, listen. We made it to April. How fucking we're pretty much like out of the winter, right? We're getting there.
Wow.
If you're listening to this down in California, you don't fucking get it. So I'm glad we made it this far. Let's keep on chugging. And folks, we love each and every one of you. If you